Hi there, this is Ethan, and welcome back to At Bat Breakdown. This is episode 6. This is a show where I try to break down pitch sequencing and pitch strategy in order to learn more. And today, the topic is the hitter perspective. So the last few videos that I've done, and most of this series has been focused on the pitcher side of things. How can a pitcher effectively choose and execute his pitches in order to get the hitter out? And today what we're going to be looking at is how can we find out what the hitter's approach might be and just kind of figure out what a hitter is doing to potentially make him successful. So without further ado, let's get into it. So as usual, we will start with a little bit of scouting. This is going to be focused on, from the hitter's perspective. So in this case, we'll be looking at Matt Chapman versus Charlie Morton. This is just kind of an interesting matchup. There's not really any real reason why I chose this. Just thought it would be interesting, and hopefully you do too. So we'll be looking at scouting. The videos for this episode, there will be at bats from 2 different games. So we'll see every pitch that Charlie Morton threw to Matt Chapman during the season. The first game was on June 10th, and the second game was on June 20th. There were, I believe, 6 at-bats. And so, yeah, we will go through and see all of that and see if Matt Chapman's approach changes at all now, once he has more experience facing Morton later in the season. So let's get into it here, into the scouting. So the first thing we want to know, if we are Matt Chapman, is, what does Charlie Morton throw? What are the pitches that he likes to throw? So this is a general breakdown of Charlie Morton. Very interestingly, he throws his curveball more often than any other pitch. This curveball is very interesting. It has a lot of horizontal movement on it, as you can see here. More than a foot on average, more like a foot and a half of horizontal movement on a curveball, which is pretty unique, and you should see that in the video, that this curveball is really something special. So other than the curveball, though, Charlie Morton's really just throwing fastballs. So it's either going to be a 4-seam fastball averaging 95 miles an hour, which is pretty quick, or a 2-seam fastball, also called a sinker here on Baseball Savant. Another thing that I have not looked at in the past videos that I think is really important that I'm going to show now is this thing called Plinko. Don't worry, I'm not seeing it either, so I'm going to refresh. This is something that Baseball Savant has that shows what each pitcher, there was for a second, and we'll have to watch it go again here, but what Charlie Morton throws in each count. So this is going to take a second to, actually we'll come back to this because we have to let it animate here. So instead I will come here to the run value Shiny app that I made. Basically what we're looking at here is which of Charlie Morton's pitches are good and where does he like to throw them. So Morton, when he throws this curveball, remember this is the pitcher's perspective, so this is going to be low and outside to a right-handed batter like Matt Chapman. So Charlie Morton throws this curveball a lot, but it's almost always down and away. So that's something important that you would like to know if you were Matt Chapman. A 4-seam fastball from Charlie Morton is likely to be probably up in the zone. He doesn't really throw it down in the zone at all. He has success up and out to righties, but is susceptible to kind of leave it in the middle and kind of get hit a little bit. That's what that blue means, is positive run value for the hitters. It's better than only 60% of pitchers' 4-seam fastballs there, so not great. Then let's take a look at the 2-seam fastball. He's going to throw that inside to righties, or he's going to have success throwing it inside to righties. He might try to kind of get a little bit on the outside here, but if he throws it in the middle, it's susceptible to get hit. So let's see if the Plinko's done. Looks like it mostly is. At least we can look at some trends from this. So what we're seeing from Charlie Morton is that he really likes to throw that curveball either early in the count, that's the light blue, is the curveball. He likes to throw it early in the count when the count is even, 1-1, 0-0, or when he's ahead of the count. So he's really using it here with 2 strikes. You see in the 2-strike counts, especially 0-2, 1-2, 2-2. He's using this curveball more than any other pitch. So that is something that is very important to know if you're Matt Chapman. Charlie Morton is not really likely to throw this curveball if he's behind in the count. So 2-0, 3-0, 3-1. if he needs a strike, he's probably going to be going to a fastball. And as we saw, his fastball is not great and is, there's a potential to hit it. So if you're Matt Chapman, maybe you want to be a little bit less aggressive, more patient, get into a hitter's count, and then you kind of know what's coming here. So that's just kind of my thoughts on that. So now we need to know for Matt Chapman, he knows his strengths very well. I do not know his strengths very well, so that's why we're going to do this little part of the scouting just to see how does Matt Chapman hit fastballs and curveballs. So starting with fastballs, let's start off with swing percentage. He's going to swing at pitches in the heart of the zone. He doesn't really swing as much at the high fastball as other right matchups typically happen. Swings a little bit more lower in the zone. Whiff percentage, he's susceptible to whiffing at this high fastball when he swings at it. Also low and away. I don't know why I'm yelling. Sorry about that. Batting average on fastballs. So we see here he's pretty good at hitting the low fastball here. He'll bang this one right that's hanging middle. He hits this high and away fastball a good amount. I'm gonna up the sample size here. So it looks like maybe this kind of outer half idea might be something that Matt Chapman's looking for. I don't know if that's an approach thing or if that's just what his strength is, but that's kind of just what I'm seeing here, and we'll see that in a second. Actually, let's look at that now. So this is every fastball that Matt Chapman saw this year. There we go. So usually this is what I was looking for. So his WOBA on fastballs is 356, which is really not that bad. It's about what we would expect from a guy like him. So let's look at where his best hits were against fastballs, and we can see where they were in the zone, and they're just kind of middle. So we could break this down even further, but he's not really a high-low guy. He seems to be more kind of like middle out is where he has success against fastballs. And then with curveballs, he's going to, swing a fair amount at the hanging curveball especially, but also this kind of low one, which is something that Charlie Morton is, kind of famous for doing. So that's something to look out for. If you're Matt Chapman, you are going to want to swing at curveballs that are hanging and that you can see really well that are here. But if you think they're going to be out of the zone, that's probably not a good idea to swing. So whiff percentage, obviously he's whiffing down here. He doesn't whiff at any curveballs, in the middle of the zone, which to me indicates that Matt Chapman is a good curveball hitter, or at least, and this kind of backs that up a little bit. If we have the sample size, let's see what happens. Yeah, so Matt Chapman, he's going to be able to hit a hanging curveball and kind of a middle away fastball. Let's look at this again. So against curveballs, Matt Chapman had a WOBA of 385, which again is very good. If we look at where the best curveballs that he hit were in the zone, they were hanging, obviously. So if we're Matt Chapman, which I'm clearly not Matt Chapman, but if I'm trying to get in his head, I'm thinking I want to look for a curveball here in the middle of the zone that's hanging, or I want to look for a fastball kind of on this outer, middle to outer half that I can do something with. Looks like with fastballs, he's more likely to kind of push it opposite field or up the middle. He's not really pulling fastballs that often. And then with curveballs, he tends to pull them, especially these bad boys that were hanging. Let's see where those were. Yeah, right there. So anyway, this is a lot of scouting here just to get going. And I will tell you right now, this is going to be a long video. So bear with me. But that is just kind of trying to get into the mind of Matt Chapman. So if we're Chapman here, this is, sorry, that's not what we want. This is what we want. So to recap, as we switch into the actual video analysis breakdown of this episode, if we're Matt Chapman, we're looking for Charlie Morton's curveballs to be hanging up here, or we're looking for fastballs out here. But generally, we know that if we can get Charlie Morton behind in the count into a 2-0, 3-0, 3-1 situation, that he almost has to throw a fastball, and his 4-seam is going to be up here, or his 2-seam is going to be in here, and those pitches are very hittable from Morton's perspective historically and from Chapman's perspective. So let's get into it. I won't be predicting what pitch is coming. I'm going to be really looking at what Matt Chapman's looking for and trying to read his body cues to see what he thinks about the pitch that just happened and how that might change his approach going forward. So if I'm Matt Chapman here, I will not be swinging. Runner on first, 1 out, still super early in the game. I'm especially because that curveball is really good too. I'm going to want to try to see a curveball. So I would pretty much be auto taking here. All right, so it was a fastball outside. I'm going to run that back. It doesn't look like Chapman was auto taking, which is probably a good idea. He's just trying to see the pitch. He takes a pretty aggressive here. If he's looking for that fastball outside, that's kind of what he got. Obviously, it was out of the zone and not a pitch that he wanted to swing at, but that's something to keep in mind is we had a fastball outside there. So now it's a 1-0 count. I suppose if a pitch that you see is right there, you want to swing at it. But again, Chapman might be kind of patient here and letting this at-bat play out. But it depends on what's coming. I think Morton just missed with a fastball. He likes to throw his curveball more than his fastball, so I'm thinking a curveball might be coming here. And if you're Chapman and you see the curveball and you're waiting on it and it's right down the middle, then go ahead and swing. So if I was Chapman, I'd be looking for that one curveball right in my wheelhouse to swing at, and otherwise not be swinging at all. Very interesting. Okay, so I'm going to go back. What happened was Morton ball. It appears to be a 2-seam, I believe, and Chapman was ready for it. So although he did line out and almost lined into a double play, which would have been not a great start to the game, he really pieced this ball. He hit it. It'd be great to have exit velocity on that. I don't think I'll be able to pull that up right now, but I'm going to go back. So what happened is not what I was expecting at all. So I kind of want to try to learn from this here. So Chapman, there's no way he reads this fastball out of the hand very well. And this is not a poorly located pitch at all. So I'm a little surprised that he swung at this pitch, given that it never really looked like a pitch that was going to be in a zone that he had success in. And given that we thought that he would be a little bit more patient, even if this is a strike, it's not really a pitch that you would think that he would do super well with. So yeah, I don't really know what to take from that, but what we will take from it is that Chapman was ready for the fastball. He was not just sitting on a curveball, and that he might not be as patient as we thought. So we're now going on to the second at-bat of Matt Chapman in his first game against Charlie Morton in 2019. So it's a very similar situation, 1 out, or 1 on. In this case, there's 1 out. Last time Morton went first pitch fastball out here. We might think that Morton's going to go first pitch fastball again, but maybe not. So if I'm Chapman, I don't really know what's coming here. It's going to be probably a curveball or a fastball. Obviously, Chapman can't look into the catcher's signs like I'm trying to do right now, but I think I'm going to need a little bit more information. I'm going to need to watch a few more pitches to figure out what Chapman's actual strategy is. Since I thought his strategy should be to be patient, I don't know what his actual strategy is. He swung at the first good pitch he saw, so maybe if he sees a good pitch here, he'll swing again. So let's just see. Okay, so Morton misses his spot, but I think what's important here, I'm going to go back, is that Morton was trying to go and throw the almost an identical first pitch that he threw to Chapman in the first inning, which was this 94-mile-an-hour 4-seam. In the first inning, he missed out, and here in the third inning, he misses high. But in both cases, he was trying to hit this outside corner, which I think tells us something about how they're approaching Matt Chapman. I think that they the Rays and the Rays pitch calling is thinking that he's not going to be able to hit this outside fastball, or that, they think that that's a safe spot. So let's watch it again here. So it misses up. I mean, Chapman probably knows that that's not where that pitch was intended to be. He might, infer that it was supposed to be an outside pitch, but I'm going to go one more time, look at his body language after the pitch. I think he's pretty confident. That's just the fact that, he looked like he had seen it all the way, which, I don't really know what to think of that, but I guess it's better than not being confident, right? Here we are, the next pitch, kind of a bad angle here, but 1-0 count. Last time Morton went low and inside with a two-seam fastball. We still haven't seen a curveball yet. It's been 3 pitches. Still have not seen a curveball. Morton throws that curveball more than any other pitch on average, so Chapman may be thinking curveball here, but he might just be waiting until he sees a strike. Let's see. All right, so there's a little bit of, Mike Zunino magic on that. I'm going to not go all the way back, but it's another fastball. Morton just is doubling up on that pitch that he tried to throw to get the first strike. He throws it again here and nails it. So it was a little bit of a frame. That pitch might be off the plate. I'm going to go back one more time and look at Chapman again, see if we think that he saw it really well. If he disagrees with the call, something like that. Yes, he definitely disagrees with the call, and I think, he thought he saw it well, which is interesting, and maybe that will be an indicator that he might succeed later in the at-bat. We will see. So it's 1-1 here. Chapman, I would think he's going to be ready to swing. He's at this point, he's looking for a pitch he can hit, which sometimes that seems obvious, but sometimes you might want to be getting deeper into the count or looking for a specific pitch. And I think in this case, he's probably just trying to see something and drive it. He's seeing the fastball well. Morton is throwing 2 fastballs out here. He might try to throw another one in here. Maybe finally go with a curveball and get a swing. We'll see. Yeah, so I think that pitch was a cutter. I know for a fact that Morton does not throw his fastball 85 miles an hour. Let's come back over here real quick. Excuse me. So an 85-mile-an-hour pitch with that much run is going to be a cutter. He throws his curveball about 79 miles an hour, just for reference. So that was a cutter. Interesting. He completely missed. Let's see where the catcher was set up. Catcher was set up in the zone, outer half of the plate. Probably wanted it to start looking like a strike, come off the plate, and get a swing. Chapman sees it all the way. Let's watch Chapman again here. I mean, to me, those look like the last 3 pitches look like very confident takes. You could argue that all 3 of them were balls, were outside of the strike zone. The second one was called a strike, but Chapman's really seeing the ball well here. So it's 2-1. What do we know about 2-1 counts? Well, let's come back to our kind of base rate. So 2-1. The most likely pitch looks like it's going to be a 2-seam, also 4-seam, sometimes cutter, and really not that curveball at all. So if you're Chapman, you might, I say not that curveball at all. He still throws it, about a third of the time. So it definitely could be a curveball here. But if you're Chapman, you might want to be kind of honing in on a fastball here. And just thinking, okay, if he throws me that inside 2-seam again, like he did in the first inning, I'm going to try to hit it hard like I did in the first inning. So I wouldn't be expecting a curveball here. I might be looking like a fool in a second when it is one, but let's see. All right, I called it that I would look dumb, but here I am. So that was a 78-mile-an-hour curveball. Morton is really having trouble locating any pitch. The Rays are really trying to throw Chapman outside, right? They've thrown 2 fastballs up here. Well, supposed to be 2 fastballs up here, a cutter out, and now let's watch this curveball again. This is that that crazy amount of horizontal movement that I was talking about during the scouting portion of this episode. I mean, that thing's just nasty. But if it's nowhere close to the zone, I'm going to go back one more time, and we're going to focus on Chapman's take. Is it a quality take? Does he recognize it out of the hand? So, you know, maybe not. This does not look like as confident of a take. Watch his bat. I wouldn't go so far to call it a check swing, but he definitely is like thinking right here. You know, he might have thought that was a fastball. Obviously, he's a major league hitter and can hold up, you know, and not swing at a pitch that bounces in the other batter's box. But just kind of interesting that curveball, it seems like Chapman wasn't really on it, right? I mean, he may have been expecting a fastball like I was, you know, suggesting that he might before this pitch, because Morton just doesn't typically throw that curveball when he's behind in the count. And maybe this is the reason why, because, you know, it's not exactly a pitch that he throws for strikes. It's more of a pitch that he throws for swings. And in this case, he didn't get that swing. So it's 3-1. If you're Morton, you see that Chapman didn't really see the curveball out of the hand, but it's 3-1, and we're going to come back to our base rates. Morton almost never throws a 3-1 fastball, or sorry, a 3-1 curveball. He almost always throws a 3-1 fastball. So if you're Chapman, this is the exact spot that you want to be in, right? 3-1 is a great hitter's count, and we have a runner on. So if I'm Chapman, I'm obviously, you know, a walk isn't bad here, so you don't want to just be swinging for the fences. But well, I mean, maybe you do want to be swinging for the fences, but you don't want to be just hacking at everything. You want to pick a pitch that you think is the pitch that you're looking for, and hit it if it's there. I don't exactly know what pitch that is for Chapman. Earlier I suggested it might be kind of outer half fastball, but whatever it is for him, I bet that he's just looking for that one pitch here. So Morton throws a cutter. Let's come back to our base rate. On 3-1, I would have to zoom super far in to see how often Charlie Morton throws a 3-1 cutter, or threw a 3-1 cutter in 2019. It's almost as often as he throws a curveball. So this is probably less than 10% of the time on 3-1 does Morton throw a cutter. So he misses. Obviously, this cutter, he has not had great command of really anything against Chapman so far. But I think this goes to show that, you know, Matt Chapman is a good fastball hitter, and in a 3-1 count, when he knows that Morton, or he thinks that Morton is going to throw a fastball, it kind of shows that, you know, the Rays in this case are choosing kind of a low success rate pitch, instead of just giving Chapman what he wants and potentially being down 2-0 in the third. So let's watch it one more time, with an emphasis on Matt Chapman. Is he looking to swing? Does he see it out of the hand? Let's watch. His arms do fire a little bit, to be fair. Let's and this pitch is really not awful. It moves a lot at the end, so it doesn't look that close. But, you know, if that was a 4-seam fastball or a 2-seam fastball even, that would have been probably right on the black. So anyway, Chapman sees it. He's really seeing Morton well out of the hand, on 4-seams, 2-seams, and cutters. And I didn't preview this, and Morton is throwing a lot more cutters than I was expecting. But either way, we are seeing that Matt Chapman is really, kind of has an idea of what's going on here. He's seeing the pitch well out of the hand, and he gets rewarded with a walk. The first inning, he lined out really sharply. Second at bat, he walks. Let's get into the third at bat against Charlie Morton. So this is the last at bat that Chapman and Morton have against each other. This is the top of the fifth. There's 2 outs. There's no one on, and it's still a 0-0 game. So I'm going to play this a little bit. So what is Matt Chapman looking for? So he so far has been attacked with fastballs out here. It seems like the Rays are a little bit scared of him. They threw one inside pitch that Chapman absolutely smoked, and Morton really has not been able to control cutters out here, the curveball way down here, a couple fastballs on this outside corner. But if you're Chapman, I mean, you're probably looking for another fastball outside here because that's where Morton has been throwing. He threw in both previous at-bats, the first pitch was an outside fastball. So, based on that, you might be expecting to see that again. Maybe Morton is more comfortable right now at this point in the game throwing a first pitch curveball, but if you're Chapman, I think you're probably expecting a fastball out here. But you might not want to be swinging at it because, the last at-bat went pretty well, getting deep into the count and kind of boxing Morton in. So you might want to just be kind of taking a pitch here to see how the at-bat unfolds, but let's see. All right, so for the third at-bat in a row, Charlie Morton against Matt Chapman, he starts him off with an outside fastball. So that was really well executed. Chapman probably, wasn't going to hop on it. He's not being super aggressive right now in this game. So it kind of makes sense that he just kind of lets that go by and says, that one's not for me. Now it's 0-1. So here we are on 0-1. Chapman is just, I don't know. I mean, he's probably just looking for another fastball. He knows it's probably either going to be a fastball or a curveball. He's been seeing fastballs really well, not seeing the curveball so well. So I don't know if, as a major league hitter, if that's something that he might be focusing on even more since he didn't see it super well out of the hand, that he might be thinking, okay, I really need to, not cheat to get to the curveball, but just kind of have that in my mind. I don't know, but let's see what happens here. Wow. All right. That was exciting. So what do we see here? We see that Charlie Morton threw a curveball. Matt Chapman hit the curveball very hard and almost gave his team the lead, but he didn't. So let's watch the pitch again. We see that Morton's throwing this curveball. This is only the second curveball that Chapman has seen this game. The first time, Morton started him off with a bunch of fastballs, outside, and then finally threw this curveball in this other batter's box. And Chapman, just kind of checked at it and ended up not swinging. But here Morton decided to throw the curveball, and Chapman was ready for it. So before this pitch, I had said that Chapman might have that curveball in his mind, just because it seemed like kind of a likely pitch to come next, and he was ready for it. So we're gonna watch the swing again. And I kind of want to watch Matt Chapman swing with an emphasis on looking for, was he looking fastball and then adjusted curveball and hit it? Or was he looking curveball all the way? Did he see curveball out of the hand? Might take a couple replays, but let's see. Okay, we're going to go back. So, let's watch it one more time and I'll tell you what I think I see. So I am not a swing expert. I do enjoy watching swing breakdowns and trying to learn. But to me, what it looks like what's happening here is Matt Chapman starts his swing and then kind of hesitates or buys himself some time and to wait a little bit so that his bat isn't completely so far in front of the curveball. So I'm going to kind of scrub here. So we see he's loading. His foot's off the ground when the pitch comes. Here he is. He's getting into his load. So he's right here. He's kind of in like launch position, I think is what some people call this. But it seems early to me. This ball is like not even halfway to home plate yet. So what happens next? Oops, that was way too far. Sorry. Swings happen fast, So we see his hips go. I'm going to try to do this quickly here. This launch position to me does not suggest that he, was sitting on this. I don't think this is like an A swing. Mostly just because the legs look kind of disjointed. Maybe we can go back in a second and look at his first inning swing and see, but his legs are going, his hips, like this just doesn't seem like an optimal position. He looks like he's reaching, which I think he is because he started his swing too soon because he didn't see the curveball out of the hand. He saw a fastball and he had to adjust. So I think this is a kind of a technique or method of buying himself a little bit of time so his body goes this way instead of forward so that his hands can kind of come through a little bit later. And eventually he puts the barrel right on the ball. I mean, this is a powerful position. I think if he was sitting on this pitch, he probably would have been able to hit it harder and hit it out. But we can see here that he did have a lot of momentum and power going into this pitch. This back leg is incredibly interesting, and I am in a second going to go back to his first at bat and look at that back foot and see if it's similar. And he swings. I don't know if he thinks he hit a homer or what, but it was awfully close. So let's come back here. This is his first inning line out. Sorry, I am kind of doing this on the fly. If you're still watching, congratulations to you. I appreciate it. So here we go. So again, Matt Chapman, the pitch is out, his leg's still up, right? This is a timing. He has kind of a leg kick timing mechanism. His foot is down. Well, this is a fastball, so it's obviously different. But his foot's down. He's in this kind of spring-loaded position, ready to go. His hips have totally gone here. I mean, this is the launch position. His hips are completely turned, and his arms haven't moved at all. And, I think that this is a swing with a lot better timing, it appears. So the arm starts to go. Okay, this is very interesting. So this is at contact, right? This, we see he's a lot more upright. He's less, sorry, I'm going to come back here to the, so this is right at contact for the curveball. Look at the angle here. I don't have a protractor function on my computer, but he's way more like down, right? I hope that is kind of what you guys are seeing. And then here he seems a bit more upright, and he's able to really put a charge into it. I would not be surprised if this hit was actually hit harder than the curveball hit that was almost a home run. But in either case, with the curveball, he was able to start his swing a little bit too early, but then adjust and buy himself some time by kind of swinging out. I'm not an expert on hitting mechanics, but I have heard this concept before. Also, the thing that we wanted to look for in this one was, what does the back foot look like? And it does kind of have that same weird angle. That might just be a part of his swing that always happens. Sorry, I'm clicking back and forth. It's probably very disorienting for you, so I will stop that. But anyway, that's everything that happened with Charlie Morton versus Matt Chapman on June 10th, their first game against each other. So what did we learn? We learned that, I'm going to come back here one more time. Sorry about that. We learned that Charlie Morton was attacking Chapman with outside fastballs. He was not trying to come in. He missed a couple times with cutters and curveballs away. They never came up and in. They never came up here except for one miss. They never came up here. They came inside with this one once and almost got really burned on it. And they threw this one curveball that was really not a bad pitch if you look at it. And, if it was a little bit higher, it may have been a worse result for the Rays. But generally, we're seeing that the Rays are pitching him outside. Chapman himself, his approach, he appears to be not overly patient, but more patient than aggressive. So he's seeing the ball well. That might just be because Morton really wasn't throwing him that many strikes, but he was not chasing. Never once did Chapman swing and miss in this game, which I think it's obviously an important skill for a hitter to not be swinging and missing at pitches outside of the zone or pitches at all. Swings and misses are bad for pitchers, or for hitters, sorry. But, so we saw that Chapman does, or appeared to have a really good eye during this game. And when he swung, he put a charge into the ball. So let's now go to their second meeting. So this is June 20th, only 10 days later in Oakland instead of in Tampa. And this was another, I believe, 3 at-bats here. And let's just see what happens here. So I'm going to try to kind of pick up the pace here. Again, I anticipate that 0 people are listening. If you're, in fact, if you're listening right now, drop a comment. Let me know. This is a science experiment. But here we go anyway. First pitch. Very unfortunate that Oakland's camera angle is not as good as the Rays. But for analysis, it's nice that they have this K-zone up. Anyway, all 3 of the first pitches from Morton to Chapman in the first game were outside fastballs. I would kind of anticipate that that's the case again here. Let's see what happens. Yeah, so that appeared to be a 2-seam fastball. Maybe the camera's just bad, but 96 miles an hour on a 2-seam is insane. Chapman, let's watch that again. Look for his reaction. Is he tracking it well? Let's just see. Didn't look to be an overly great or bad take, just kind of take to me. I don't have much to say about that. But here we go. So Chapman is 0-1. So after the first pitch strike in the past, or in the first game, if I remember correctly, the Rays went kind of fastball inside once, and then I actually don't remember what happened after that, even though it was like 20 minutes ago. But if you're Matt Chapman here, you might be expecting another curveball, since, again, Morton likes to throw that curveball more than he likes to throw his fastball generally, and he's been throwing a lot of fastballs to Chapman. So start this up here. And, I mean, if you're Chapman, it's 0-1 now. You can't really have you can't be just dialing in on a single pitch on 0-1. You're probably just going to be, don't swing at balls, don't swing at a strike unless it's something that you can hit really hard. But in terms of fastball curveball, I think it's kind of a toss-up here. All right, so it was a curveball. I am really glad from a fan's perspective that Morton didn't get that call. He got a kind of a very well-framed, maybe undeserved strike in the first game. That would have been kind of a travesty if that pitch was called a strike, but it wasn't. So this pitch, according to Mike Zunino, was supposed to be down and in. Or sorry, not down and in, but just kind of like down middle. Very interesting, since Matt Chapman almost hit that for a home run in the last at-bat that these two faced, but Morton is going to miss up and in. Definitely not where he wanted to throw that, but if you're Chapman, you're thinking, okay, well, he might not just be trying to attack me with fastballs like he did in the last game. I'm just going to play this out. So that was Morton's 8th pitch of the game, so it's very similar situation to what happened in the first game. So here we are again, 1-1. Oops, we see this. 3. I would assume that that's a cutter. I don't really know how major league catchers differentiate between like a 4-seam fastball or a 2-seam fastball. I usually just see like a 1 go down, so I'm not really sure about that. I know in college a lot of the times the catcher just puts down a 1 and the pitcher just throws whatever he wants, either a 4-seam or a 2-seam, sometimes based on the location. But also, another name for a curveball is a deuce, because that's usually a 2 that the catcher puts down. So Morton doesn't really have a third pitch. I mean, he throws at that cutter, which I guess that is, but so I guess this doesn't really help me as a fan understand what's going on, because I don't know what his third pitch is. But if you're Chapman, you saw fastball outside that was dotted up, missed on a curveball. He might not have that confidence in the curveball earlier in the game, so might be thinking fastball here. If you're Chapman and you see a fastball, why not hit it? Okay, so we learned that a 3 means cutter, because that's what that pitch was. Let's see where that pitch was supposed to be. It's supposed to be low and in here. Again, this would be a great question for Coach Weinstein, but I don't know if this means aim here in the zone and have it break out of the zone, or if this means start over here and have it break to this spot. I think it's probably the former. So this is interesting. On 1-1, they're not really challenging Chapman. They're trying to get a swing on a pitch that's out of the zone, a cutter. And Chapman has not once demonstrated that he is going to be, in the first game, he didn't swing and miss at any pitch outside the zone. So kind of an interesting strategy here. Again, I think that the Rays might be kind of avoiding Chapman or scared of him to some extent. But let's watch this pitch again, see Chapman's response. Yeah, that's a great take. So he saw that. I don't know if he saw that it was specifically a cutter out of the hand, but this pitch really did not ever look like it was going to be a strike out of the hand. I'm just kind of, right there, you can tell that's not going to be a strike. And as it goes, Chapman says, okay, I'm not going to swing at that. So now that it's 2-1, this is, okay. So I guess at this point in the season, Morton was throwing more fastballs than curveballs. Kind of interesting, but Chapman doesn't know that, so we're going to ignore that we're seeing this. So we have a 2-1 count here. It's been fastballs away. This one kind of weird curveball, but if you're Chapman, you're probably looking for another fastball away. That's what they've been throwing. And if it's off the plate, you're going to take it because you've been taking them and you're really good at that. So let's see this. Curveball outside. I want to go back. Sorry, that was really, again, that's not your computer being glitchy. That's just me clicking around. Sorry about that. Let's watch this curveball again. It's way outside. Let's see if Chapman kind of has that check swing like he did in the first game, the first curveball of the day that he saw. And, or let's see if he's, seeing it out of the hand. So, yeah, it looks like he's not really seeing it out of the hand. I mean, this Morton curveball is super good, so I'm not really surprised. But if you look at Chapman's hands, as we scrub a little bit, as the ball goes, he is thinking, okay, this might be an up and out fastball. And if it is, I got to be ready to hit it. So he's definitely more in a hitting stance than in a taking stance. And, he's ready to swing. I mean, look at this. His hips have fired. And, fortunately for him, he sees that this ball is outside. So for the, nth time in a row, he has not swung it at this pitch outside. I want to see where this was set up to be. So it was set up to be low and in, or kind of probably more low middle. And Morton just misses again. Is Morton just scared to throw this curveball to Chapman? Because he really hasn't thrown a good one yet. And the one that Chapman decided to swing at was tattooed. So that's just kind of an interesting thing going on here. But now it's 3-1. What do we know about Morton in 3-1? I don't have to pull up the chart again, but we know that he rarely throws curveballs in 3-1. It's probably going to be a fastball here. And as Mike Zunino is showing, fastball outside seems to be the Rays' MO. And at this point, Chapman has to realize that. So let's see if Chapman decides that he's going to swing at this fastball outside or maybe take it if it's not there. Let's just see what happens. Interesting. So it was there. It was in the strike zone, and he took it. So it's 96 miles an hour on the black. That's a very well executed pitch by Charlie Morton. That's exactly where he wanted it. I'm going to go back. We're going to watch Chapman, see if he thinks about swinging. He does, right? His hand's fired. Now let's look at him and see what his reaction is to this pitch. Okay, interesting. So we think, okay, I'm just breaking this down what I think is going on. I think that he's frustrated, that he knew that pitch was coming. Again, sorry for clicking around. I got to get better at that. He knew that this pitch was coming, and I think he's frustrated here because he didn't swing, because he maybe he thought it was outside and it wasn't. This doesn't come off as like frustrated that it was a bad call. It seems more frustrated like, damn, I knew that pitch, or I thought that pitch was going to be right there, and if I would have swung, I would have been able to do damage. So let's watch that reaction again. But okay, so that's just what I think. If you think something different, let me know. But now it's 3-2. So we haven't seen a 3-2 count. I'm going to come back to the base rates here. On 3-2, looks like it's about a third chance of curveball and 2/3 chance of fastball. No chance of cutter, no chance of split finger, which apparently he throws that we have not seen at all. in this video. So it's 3-2. But if you're Chapman, you've seen two curveballs. Two of these three balls have been curveballs. One was way up here, one was way down here, and they were both supposed to be right here, which you already know you can hit this pitch. So if you're Chapman, you're probably thinking, okay, well, the odds are he's going to throw a fastball 2/3 of the time anyway, but he hasn't been able to land a curveball or get me to swing at anything outside the zone. So, you have to be thinking fastball here. And, I obviously can see that that's what the call is, but fastball outside makes total sense. That's what the Rays have been trying to do all game. I think they're going to be nibbling here. I think if Chapman walks again, it's not the biggest thing in the world. They just really don't want to be allowing extra base hits to this guy who they are kind of fearing. So for the second time in 4 plate appearances, Matt Chapman just takes a walk against Charlie Morton. He saw this pitch coming. I'm going to go right back to it here. We're going to watch and see if he's thinking about swinging or if he sees it well out of the hand. He kind of gives it a little courtesy, but he seemed to see that one pretty well. So wow, that was all the first at bat. Great at bat. So first at bat of the game, Matt Chapman walks. We are seeing what the Rays' strategy is against him, and he is not budging at all. He's not swinging at pitches that are out of the zone. He's taking pitches on the outside corner, and he's kind of letting the Rays. He's saying, okay, if you can do that consistently, then I'll give it to you. But oh wow, okay, this is very interesting. Career against Charlie Morton, 2 for 13. So we saw in the first game, Chapman was 0 for 2 with a walk, but all very good at bats, and I would argue that Chapman was winning those at bats. And then in the first at bat here, we again see Chapman beating Charlie Morton in an at bat. So through 4 at bats, it seems like Chapman kind of has Morton's number, even though historically his numbers aren't great. So that's kind of interesting. That's pitcher versus batter matchups. It's 0-0 for the 4 previous. Every matchup in 2019 so far that we've seen between these two has started with an outside fastball. Chapman looked like he was ready to hit that outside fastball on 3-1 in the last at bat. So maybe he's just gonna be thinking outside fastball here, and if he sees it, he's gonna hit it. But I mean, he has to be thinking outside fastballs coming here. And it's not. So finally the Rays decide to shake it up a little bit on the first pitch to Chapman. This is a cutter. I'm going to go backwards and see. Yeah, so this cutter was supposed to be down. Charlie Morton totally misses. The cutter has a lot of lateral movement and kind of brings it back to almost maybe catch this part of the zone. But let's look at Chapman. I suspect that he is just seeing this pitch all the way as not being a strike and just kind of bails on it. Yeah, so Chapman was not really looking to swing at that. I'm going to go and look at his hips here. Do his hips ever fire? Not really, right? I mean, they kind of do a little bit here, but he's not ever thinking about hitting this pitch. So, and he's even a little bit he's like, oh, dang, they haven't come up on me all season, right? And now all of a sudden they do, even if it was unintentional. So it's now 1-0. They usually go fastball outside. They just missed with a cutter. Interestingly, they're going to go cutter again here. If you're Chapman, you're probably not thinking, oh, I'm going to get another cutter here. You're probably just thinking, look for that fastball outside, like 4-seam or 2-seam fastball. But looks like the Rays are going to try to do this pitch again, give Morton a little do-over. So let's see how that happens and if Chapman, sees it out of the hand. So an infield pop-up. Again, I feel like every time I do one of these videos, there's a perfect pitch that describes, that validates exactly why pitch sequencing is so important, and pitch strategy, I should say. This cutter is not where Charlie Morton wants it, right? We're going to start over, look back. So he wants this low and he wants it, he wants it down in the zone. If Morton told Chapman, I'm going to throw a cutter right down the middle, Chapman would have, probably hit it 400 feet. But the issue is Chapman just saw a cutter up here. Morton doesn't throw the cutter all that often. He doesn't think that Morton has control of this cutter. So when he's behind in the count, why would he throw it again, right? But that's what the Rays decided to do here. I suspect they were just trying to give him a chance to just throw this cutter and kind of get the feel for it again. But if you're Chapman, you're expecting a 4-seam or a 2-seam fastball. So let's play this again, and I'm going to kind of stop it in the middle of pitch flight. Or I'm going to try to. So this pitch, it looks like it could be a fastball. I mean, it's 86 compared to 95, so it's kind of in a distinct velocity range. So Chapman might be, recognizing it as a cutter right here. But if his swing was meant to be a fastball swing, then he's obviously going to miss the cutter. So this is a very interesting situation that I've been thinking about and that I would love to learn more about. I don't know if the data's out there. But if you pause this, you might think that Matt Chapman hit a home run on this. This looks like he is perfectly squared up. His swing looks a lot like it did in his first at bat of the first game where he just annihilated this pitch right here. So it looks like he was either expecting the cutter or saw it out of the hand. I think sometimes you just miss it. And I think that's what happened here. Because it looks like he's on time. Let's watch it here. The result, he's not really that mad, which is interesting, but the result is, it's up the middle. So if it would have been super pulled, we could have said, oh, he was early on it. If it was hit the opposite way, we could have said he was late on it, but it looks like his timing was fine. It was just kind of the vertical position of the bat. He just kind of swung under it, which will happen. I mean, these aren't robots. This isn't a video game. So I think Chapman just missed that. So it's interesting that at bat was just two cutters, a bad one and another bad one that Chapman just missed. So that's kind of deviates from the pattern that we've seen a little bit. But anyway, let's get into the third and I believe final at bat of these two players in 2019. So this is the first pitch. 4 of the previous 5 at bats have started with a fastball outside. The other one had this cutter up here. So I wouldn't say that Morton's had success with this cutter, and he really hasn't thrown the curveball at all. So 84 pitches, starting off the 6th inning. He's clearly done well in the game. I don't really know what to say here. I mean, Chapman's probably leading off the inning. I doubt he swings here. So he might just want to see a pitch. That's what I would think is going to happen here. Wrong again, Ethan. All right, so for the first time, actually, we see a high fastball from Morton. So 93 miles an hour. I think that this pitch by itself is already in a very good location. We can scrub through a little bit. I think Chapman might be seeing, okay, this is a pitch in my wheelhouse here, which is kind of middle. Real quickly, I'm going to go back and look at Charlie Morton's. Oh, I don't have it up. I want to see if Charlie Morton's fastball spin rate is good. I think it would make sense if his spin rate was good, that he would kind of have that hop on that pitch and have Chapman be swinging under it. But we will see here in a moment. Fastball spin, 45, so no. Charlie Morton's spin rate is not good. And so the fact that he's able to throw this high fastball, I think, means that Chapman was just looking for it, maybe a little bit overeager, but I mean, not really even overeager, because that's a hittable pitch. I mean, 93 up in the zone. I think that this pitch has additional success because they haven't been living there. So Chapman's, all of his attention is down kind of out here on this outside fastball. But yeah, so he misses it. Let's look at his. Got to be honest, I looked away from my screen, so I'm going to again. He does not appear to like show anything about that pitch. This is still the same pitch. I think that he just was like, all right, well, I took a hack at it. I missed it. Duly noted that, they're starting me off with a high fastball. They haven't done that the whole season. But just kind of like, you got me on that. I feel like he probably feels like he put a good swing on that too, which is, kind of a consolation prize. But so now we have 0-1. Morton's probably, itching to throw that curveball again, even though he, because he has not had any success against Chapman with that curveball. But I mean, if you're Chapman, you probably Chapman this whole time probably has some approach that I just don't know about because I'm not in his head. But he might be thinking outside fastball. He might be thinking, okay, well, it's 0-1, just don't swing at balls and swing at good pitches. All right, so that's that curveball. For the lost track 4th or 5th time, Morton's tried to throw a curveball right here, and every time but one, it's been awful, either missing way out here or way up here, or the one time that he actually did throw it where it was supposed to be, it was crushed. So Morton, I think, is doing Chapman a favor here by throwing this just awful curveball. Like Zunino can't even catch it, and yeah, so. Sorry, I get distracted by reading these even though they're not important to what I'm doing. So it's a 1-1 count. We just had that pretty awful curveball. Chapman's mind might be on, maybe he's going to throw another one of those curveballs. But, I would be expecting here from Chapman and just generally looking for a pitch to hit that you can drive. Eek. Okay, that's pretty bad all around, but let's go back to it. What happened is Charlie Morton went back to the curveball. So for the, he actually finally figured out, how to get that curveball. You can kind of see his little grip with that first finger out there. He was aiming for it to be right here, probably a little bit below the zone, but that's maybe where Zunino just wants him to target that pitch. And then he throws it. This is not a bad pitch at all. Chapman was, that's the first time, I believe the first time in the entire season against Morton that he swung at a pitch that was out of the zone. And he made, okay contact on it. Let's look at the swing again. I'm going to scrub a little bit. So just like the last time he hit the curveball for the last at bat of the last at bat of the first game, he looks like he's kind of waiting, like trying to swing at this fastball, and he's not seeing this curveball super well. So he has to kind of buy himself some time. And in this case, I think it's even worse because the pitch is in a less hittable location. So last time the pitch kind of lined up right with where his barrel was. In this case, it's a little bit farther down on the bat, which we can see here. So he's not barreling it. He does kind of buy himself some time again, which he shouldn't really have to do if he sees the curveball out of the hand. But to me, that's an indication that he didn't see the curveball out of the hand and just has some kind of weak contact. Maybe that's just because of where it hit on the bat compared to last time. I don't know. Or maybe it's because his swing just generated less power. I mean, he's like almost completely like, 60 degrees this way. Maybe more like 45, but he just kind of swing on it and just put his head down because he knows that wasn't great. And I think what's interesting is this is the first ball in play. So he's Matt Chapman against Morton this season had, 4 balls in play. In the first game, there was the scorcher to third that he probably deserved to have a hit on. I'm sure the XWOBA on that was very high. Then he had the almost home run at the end of the first game, which again, that was probably some pretty high XWOBA, almost a home run. Then he had the pop out, which he just missed it, and that he didn't deserve to get a hit there. But what's funny here is that this swing is what ended up getting. Yes, it was probably an error, but it's just kind of funny how baseball works that way. So let's get to a more attractive ending screen here and wrap this up. So again, I cannot believe that anyone is still watching this, but if you are, thank you. This has been very helpful for me to look at an at-bat through the hitter's eyes. I think looking through the pitcher's eyes is easier. I do a lot of scouting of the pitcher and the hitter, and if I'm looking at, okay, how can we exploit this hitter, it's really not like that difficult to find trends and to just like predict what's going to happen next, especially for a pitcher like Morton, who really only has 2 pitches. I guess he threw the cutter a lot, but who's more of a 2-pitch guy. It kind of stopped being super interesting to me. And I feel like I learned what I needed to learn about that. So looking through the hitter's perspective, I think the big kind of question mark is, what is this hitter's approach, right? So is he likely to be looking for a certain pitch? Is he a guy that just thinks fastball and reacts to off speed? Is he a guy that sees the pitch out of the hand? I mean, Chapman was seeing the fastballs extremely well out of the hand and was really not seeing the curveball well out of the hand at all, having to adjust his swing to hit the curveball on the occasion that he did swing, and even sometimes almost check swinging at pitches that were in the other batter's box. So those are things that we can't really know from the stats, that we kind of have to just figure out by watching, and that's what I kind of wanted to practice doing here in this video. So again, thank you very much for watching. I will wrap this up here, and look forward to talking to you guys again in the next one.